Well, welcome everyone to Future Work Scotland. Thank you all for joining us for the second of our sessions in August. Really pleased to be doing this. I'm your host, Sathpal Singh, because me Sath. I'm joined by my co-organiser and co-host, Donald Henderson. If this is your first time, very warm welcome to you. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Usual formalities. We have a simple code of conduct. We simply ask that you be respectful to one another. We want everyone fantastic experience, and we will do some other shout outs and things at the end, as we often do. In terms of Q&A, I'm going to hand over to our guest speaker in a second. If you have any questions as we go, drop them into the chat. I think Jenny's going to keep it quite relaxed and informal, as we often do, so we might take some questions as we go. Let's see how we go, and with that, I'm really delighted to welcome Jenny Landgren to Future Work Scotland this evening. Donald, I'm very excited about a lot of the work that Jenny's been doing in this space, and her book, which Donald is holding up. He's got all the books which he's been holding up, and I think what's really interesting for me with this one is the space that Jenny's in and the work she's doing. So she's a behavioural science expert and a coach, but she's been working with leaders across the world to really help them go on a journey of self-discovery. And I love that stuff, because if you follow my stuff on LinkedIn, I do a bit of the same. And also, I think in this session, I think it'll be very deep and very thought-provoking. And if you joined our session early in the year with Erin Randall, where we did a bit on boundary setting and responsibilities, and Erin ended up talking a little bit about some of her own vulnerabilities, and it became quite a personal story. I think there'll be some nice linkages, so I'm looking forward to that. And with that, I'm delighted to hand over to Jenny, and very excited to hear what you've got to share with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Seth, and thank you, Donald. As soon as you reached out, I knew that I wanted to work with you guys, and I appreciate the way you show up in the world and the way you show up for me. So I feel like it's a really good connection to start up with, and I will be happy to share this little teaching that I have prepared. And it's really loaded with helpful perspectives on choosing unity in the world that we live in today and the workplaces that we go to today. I also invite everyone to reflect on your own situation. I'm so wanting to reach all of you where you are in your situation, and just invite you to share your thoughts. And it's a co-creation. We'll see where we end up. I'm actually feeling uncomfortable with this, so I'm gonna see if it works just as fine. Let me know if the sound is off. Good. Okay, so today I will be speaking from my first book, that is Choosing Unity. And thank you, Donald, for bringing a copy and for reading. There are so many choices that we do have in collaborating and finding one another in a world that is just rapidly changing, where fear of what is new may easily divide us. And in this first book of mine, I focus on the opportunities and the choices that we do have in opening up and reaching one another, especially in the workplace. So we will be focusing in on the choice to be vulnerable. And why does that matter? Why is that important? It's definitely uncomfortable many times. So why is it worth the effort and the growth? Let me share just a little bit about myself. First of all, I am a mother of 3 beautiful children. There's Bella, Leon, and Alicia. I call them my little herd, because Bella is 9 and Leon and Alicia are 8. So I got them as close as you possibly can. And they really like to occupy the same square. meter, and they're just my little herd, and they follow me wherever I go. So I love them so much. I'm also a multi-published leadership author. So Choosing Unity is my first book. There's more work of my own and a lot of collaborative work with other authors out there. I'm happy to share more about that. I'm a behavioral science expert for management and business development, and I coach and counsel CEOs and managers and leaders on how to connect with their teams on a deeper level. And I support them in understanding where their sphere of influence is in a world where so much is outside of our control. And we know that for sure, having gone through the pandemic of COVID. I'm the CEO and founder of NARA Communications, and I'm also the Vice President of Europe Operations for Breath Framework. That is a executive coaching program that is very dear to my heart. That is all about recognizing that healed people heal people, and leaders who are healed and full in themselves are able to hold space for their people to grow. So that's a very exciting work, and I will be sharing a bit about both NARA Communications and the Breath Framework, and some supportive guidelines in there for sure. And I've been a national director. I've worked as a section director and counselor, and I've taught leadership and communication at university to engineers and also in vocational education. So I've had many experiences to self-reflect and to grow as a leader, and to recognize that I am a work in progress, and to enjoy that discovery and actually let go of perfectionism to be present with the lessons that I'm currently in and enjoy the journey. It's been more and more about letting go of that to-do list and digging into my pleasure list and enjoying my work and enjoying life. So that's something that I love to share with the people that I am fortunate to coach and support. I will share with you some pictures from my Facebook about 5 years ago. And just look at them, what's coming in for you. Looks kind of cozy, looks like a really sweet home. There's a birthday cake. Does it look like a happy place? I invite everyone to mute whenever you want to share. What's coming in for you as you look at those pictures? When I see them, I remember that the content and the pictures that I was sharing on my social media did not at all reflect what was going on in my own life. And I know that this is very common, and that most people can relate to the fact that today, out of the fear of not being enough or not doing enough, we put out images and facades and pictures of the ideal of what we wish our lives look like. I like to call it that we get attached to the ideal. And ideals are wonderful. They're very close to having a vision. Being a visionary is very important in leadership. It means that you are able to see further than anyone else. You're able to have your head up above the clouds and see what does not yet exist, and to move, towards that ideal. However, if it's not in balance with keeping your feet firmly on the ground and calling things by their true name and speaking about matters as they are, it will cause you to disconnect from yourself. So I lived a life for 10 years where I put on a facade. I showed people what I thought they were expecting to see and what would keep them happy. And it's really made me disconnect from myself and from other people, keeping that notion of perfect. And I want to
look at your pictures.
Huh?
When I looked at the pictures, the first thing I thought is that really her house? Or is she just putting up pictures of things she would like to have?
That's very accurate. Yes, it is my house. I can guarantee you that it did not look like this all of the time because I had 3 kids. But I made sure to clean, and I'm being very vulnerable now. I'm sharing with you exactly as it was. I cleaned the house, I made everything look perfect, and I snapped those pictures to put it on Facebook. And they're still there because they're a part of my life. So, and I also want to add that this presentation that I just put together for you guys, it's not going to be perfect. I shared with Seth and Donald before going on that I love posting before perfect. I love coloring outside of the lines. I love doing things and leaving them nearly finished and just bringing them out to the world to teach myself that it was never about perfection. It's all about the journey. It's all about the lessons, the experiences of my soul and everything that I get to grow through. So just adding that in there. There's probably going to be misspellings because I'm from Sweden, and that's totally fine. I'm so comfortable showing up this way. So now I will share this picture of me from 2016. I remember this woman, and I look at her almost as if she's a stranger, but she was so afraid of her power at this point that she is another version of me, and she also is me. When you look into her eyes, does she seem happy? What are you seeing when you look into her eyes?
Lost.
Yeah, she was. Anyone else?
My first instinct was fear, like
Mm.
fear of the world, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at this time, and for many, many years, actually 10 years of my life, living in a very destructive relationship. And I was doing everything that I could. I was focusing my energy on keeping a facade to make everything look okay, and really to keep the people around me happy. This woman was going through experiences that no one should ever have to go through. And she desperately needed support. She needed friendship. She needed coworkers who saw her and reached out to her and cared for her. And the fact that she was so afraid of not being perfect and not being found worthy and keeping that facade, it really disconnected her from the things that could really help her grow, that could really fulfill her. And during this time, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see those little hands? My twins were born in week 26, 3 months early. And I cared for those babies and their 1-year-old older sister pretty much on my own, and supported and protected them through that experience. When I look back on this woman, I know that she had so much shame in her. And I'm going to use those words. They may be trigger words for some people, but I will use them because I know they are a shared human experience. And today, after having healed, I can say that I deeply love her. and I want the best for her, and I carry her in my heart. Today we will be speaking about vulnerability and the benefits of choosing to show up real and authentic and genuine, to make the choice to open ourselves up to the world, to let other people see us where we are as it is. And yes, learning outcomes of this for us to know why that is worth the work, because it really is work for some people to make those choices and to explore those parts of themselves. It's about listening. It's about developing deeper listening skills to recognize how we can be there for another person and connect with them on a deeper level. And it's understanding the difference between a communication that is informative and truly deeply transformative in their lives and the lives of our own. So I want to open up and just invite you who are listening and ask, what is your biggest fear being vulnerable? What's the biggest fear being vulnerable? I know there are a few. What's coming up for you guys?
People judging you.
Yeah. Having opinions, right? And maybe not sticking around to get the whole picture, right? They're so quick with having a judgment, an opinion, and maybe not listening. Thank you, Sath. Anyone else?
You don't have all the answers.
Yeah, right. It's showing up, accepting and sharing that we are works in progress and we don't have it all figured out. And absolutely. Anyone else?
The biggest concern I have is some of the environments I've been in have been very, very competitive. And if I show vulnerability, I have to be careful how I do it so it's not something that someone can use against me and twist to their advantage.
Yeah, that's very wise. Trust is supposed to take time. And it's not about being reckless. It's not about being naive. It truly is an invitation. And I love that you are keeping yourself safe. I love that you are being compassionate towards yourself. So it's about recognizing those parts and seeing how can I be a positive influence in this situation, also remaining wise. And recognizing when you are in a place where there is that safe space to share and bring those parts of yourself. Thank you. So apart from my personal story, we are also living in a world that is changing we like to say that the acceleration is accelerating. It's just moving faster and faster and faster. And we're in a global community where we meet differences. Our workplaces are spaces of collaboration where we meet what is different from us in more ways than ever, I'd say. So the question of how to handle the fear that we all may experience when we show up to meet and work together is more on point than ever. And I wonder, how are differences and change showing up in your workplace, in your every day of life? How is that showing up for you?
I think the biggest change I'm seeing is that there are people that are trying to go back to the way things were before the pandemic. So they want everybody in the office every day. And there are a lot of other people who are saying, I'm wasting my time commuting. And when I get to the office, the people I need to talk to and work with are maybe not even in the same country. So there's no real point in me being there.
Mm,
So why are we doing this in a way that no longer makes sense?
that's a good question.
So that's a
Thank-
big difference that I'm seeing.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? I could do a whole lesson on silence. I love silence. How it does encourage self-reflection and for people to just, yeah. Okay. So a definition to offer on vulnerability from Brene Brown, who is the queen of vulnerability, is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. But vulnerability is not weakness. It's our most accurate measure of courage. When the barrier is our belief about vulnerability, the question becomes, are we willing to show up and be seen when we can't control the outcome? When the barrier to vulnerability is about safety, the question becomes, are we willing to create courageous spaces so we can be fully seen? The picture I showed you, I was carrying so much shame and I was not in a loving relationship towards myself as a leader or as a human being. Therefore, I was afraid of being seen, firstly by myself and also by the world. So it all begins with self-compassion and self-acceptance. Those are the two first choices that I want to bring up. I like to ask my clients, if a neighbor moved into your house and you wanted to get to know that person, and you walked over and you knocked on that person's door and they opened the door with hateful, resentful eyes, who judged you, who were, like you were saying, you were sharing your fears, who were not willing to stick around and listen, who had an opinion right away, and were bitter, would you want to stay in that company to know that person? I know I wouldn't. And so often this is the way in which we open the doors to ourselves. And when we carry that kind of relationship with ourselves, it's no wonder we are afraid of showing ourselves to the world. So the relationship with our colleagues and our coworkers and our managers and everyone around us begins with how we treat and how we view ourselves, how we see ourselves, because we get to open that door with compassionate eyes. Truly, you have a relationship with yourself, just like you have a relationship with other people. And what do we do to inspire trust with other people? What do? We can open that one up. What are you guys doing to inspire trust in the relationships with the people around you? Are you listening to them? Are you caring for them? Are you curious?
Making time for them.
Thank you. Time. Yes, it takes time to build a relationship. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Did I hear you right? Yeah, thank you, Donald. Yeah. So we show up for them. We listen to them. We care for them. We're not so quick to judge. We hold space for them to figure themselves out. We want to understand. We have a curious, graceful mind towards them. This is the way in which we get to open the door to ourselves. That is self-compassion. That is self-acceptance. This is the first step in being able to meet ourselves where we are, and then inviting other people to meet us and to grow in collaboration. starts with a loving relationship towards ourselves. And love is a word that some people just run from in business, and I will keep using it. So now to you, I wonder, how are you treating yourself? And you don't have to share this in group. I'm just asking you to reflect on that a little bit. Just this past few days, how are you treating yourself? With what eyes are you opening that door towards your inner self? Are you speaking to yourself like you speak to someone you love? Are you caring for yourself like you care for your best friend? And what is one thing that you can commit to right now to treat yourself with more understanding and self-compassion? Because what happens is when we start becoming more comfortable to stay in our own company, we are now able to know ourselves. We are now able to self-reflect. We're not going to shy away from the spaces that used to scare us or used to make us feel shameful. We have that curious mindset to discover ourselves at our core. And with my clients, we excavate, like we look so much into their core values. We explore their compass for leading, their compass for doing business, their compass for life, to make sure that they are in the direction of being their best authentic selves and leading lives of joy, living in alignment with who they truly are. Vulnerability is the way to getting there. It's recognizing that this list of do, I now get to lay aside, and I get to focus on pleasure. I get to focus on the things that I enjoy. I get to set my peace of mind as the highest goal and organize my life around that. Now, what does that look like? I'm challenging you today. Like, what does that look like for you when you flip it? You're not going to run and look, around the next corner, I will get some rest. And when I just check these things off, around the next corner, I will get some rest. What will your life look like when you set your peace of mind as your highest goal and you organize your life around it? That is living a life in alignment with who you are and what you truly value. That's some beautiful stuff. It's more about being and less about doing. It's more about allowing who you are to flow from you and create your life knowing your authentic yes and your authentic no. This is how we create our lives, with our yes and our no, connected to ourselves and who we are. I love watching those journeys of transformation, people leaving burnout behind and just creating those lives that they truly are inspired by themselves. So I'll read to you from Choosing Unity Starts With Us, page 53. It takes courage to be vulnerable. We often view it as a weakness. Shying away from vulnerability weakens our teams. Oh, I love that. There's a misspelling. It's awesome. Because we are holding up a facade. Oh my goodness, Jenny, what is going on? As if we were not at all human. Like we aren't connected in the shared human experience of hopes, aspirations, and sufferings of loss. Once we understand that our value, pay attention, our value is in no way correlated with our performance, there is nothing we can do to be more or less worthy. We can start to be more open with one another about our failures, even labeling them as learning experiences. And when I coach engineers, they love this graphic that I draw for them, where I ask them to look at their day, and I'll share my day. I woke up being so sweet to my children. I had the sweetest mama voice with them. Good morning, lovelies. And I felt like I am doing good. I'm a good mama. And I felt like my value, my worth went up. And then they didn't even get breakfast because we got so stressed out. And I feel like I'm such a bad mama. That's terrible of me. You see how I am connecting my sense of worth with my performance? This is what we do. And then I obey the law in traffic, and I feel like, well, I'm pretty good. and then they're late for school, and I feel like I'm a shitty mama. So what we do so often is that in this world, we've started to connect our performance with our worth. And what I get to share with my clients, and especially in the way that I show up for them and the way that I treat them, is that our worth is absolute. There is nothing we can do to affect it. We get to live a life of worthy that is consistent, and this means that we do not have to fear failure. We get to embrace it as learning opportunities and grow through it and share it openly and enjoy the journey. Does that make sense? I'm so glad. So, going through the benefits of vulnerability. Knowing and accepting myself means that I have discovered, I am discovering all of me, and I am recognizing where I end. This means that I can also recognize where another person begins. Being vulnerable means that I can invite other people into collaboration, and I can enjoy that collaboration with them. It means that I do not fear bringing all of me to the table. It means that I'm also able to hold space for others the way that I'm holding space for myself. And in freeing myself, I'm not just doing that. You know what it's like when you walk into a room and that person is comfortable in his or her own company. When a person is fully accepting themselves, giving themselves to the permission to be who they are, they grant that permission to everyone around them. So you are never just freeing yourself to be you, you are freeing the people around you. I love that. That is super, super powerful. And actually, when we show up and stay vulnerable and allow other people to show their color, it leads to safer decision making. This is research based. When we do, we evaluate our decisions more carefully because everyone is voicing their opinion. Everyone is open to share. It also creates that collaborative, creative space where we sometimes collide, and there's that energy, like the juicy culture that we all long for. I like to say that vulnerability leads to our colors to pop. Because when I accept myself as I am, I make the people around me pop in the way that they are. And if you are into, if you're into arts, you know that there are contrast colors. You know that what is different will make that other color just shine so much brighter, like purple and yellow. Being vulnerable and showing up authentically will make the people around you pop, so go for it. And I love this quote, "My brokenness is a better bridge for people than my pretended wholeness ever was." There are so many situations where I could have put on that facade again, and I chose to show up, letting people know that, you know what, guys, I'm not feeling 100% today. This is where I am, and they're so happy to step into that invitation and compliment me and bring that other 30% or whatever. This is what unites us, our shared human experience. I know I love when my colleagues show up real that way, and I love when they show up that way for me as well. I wonder if you guys have ever had the experience of opening up to a person and then regretting it. Possibly there are people in your lives that you really shared with and that you really felt close with, and then after time you feel like you don't really hold that space in my life anymore. Does that make sense to anyone listening? Thank you, Terry. Yeah. So this can be a fear. Like if you let people in, then like they're in your closest circle, and what are you going to do about it? So my message here is also that your vulnerability to the people around you is a gift. They are not allowed to step on it. They step into it on your permission. And just because you left someone a key at some point in your life doesn't mean that you don't have the power to change the lock. Let that sink in for a little bit. It is your choice who you let into your closest circle. Absolutely. Are there any thoughts so far, any reflections that you guys would like to share?
I like the middle one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, you've shared your vulnerability. So I guess you've put trust in others with whom you've shared it, right? And I think Sheila made the point earlier as well. It's if you do that, what you're absolutely not wanting to experience is that somebody exploits that in some, you know, horrible fashion for their own gain. So I think that middle one speaks to that. And I think that's why a lot of the time people do struggle to show their vulnerability, because they're worried about the nature of the response they're going to receive, or the reaction they're going to receive, or what somebody else might do with there's such a personal expression of whatever is going on for that individual.
Yeah, that makes my mind go in two directions. The first is that we choose what we receive. How you show up is a reflection of you. How the other person responds is a reflection of them. It's an outpour of their character. And it's like someone sliding you a business card and you're like, no, thank you, I don't receive it. Right? Makes sense? They make that choice. And also, being compassionate means that you're also compassionate with yourselves. And it means that you establish those healthy boundaries and that you do not allow people to walk all over you.
We've got Indigo's got a hand up. I don't know whether you want to take it. Is it a question? Is it a deliberate hand up?
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad.
Do you want to contribute something?
Yeah, so apologies, I was late. I had 7:30 in my head and wrote that down. Yeah, I'm actually really glad that I showed up, because I was sort of like, I shouldn't show up for something half an hour late, but then I just thought, well, if they don't want me in, they'll not let me in, kind of thing. Yeah, I'm actually getting kind of emotional listening to this. I am autistic and ADHD, and I'm actually trying to build a social startup for neurodivergence, but I have spent 30 odd years of my life being neurotypical, and I'm burnt out at the moment. I've been in sensory overload for like 17 days now.
Okay.
And stuff, and it's like, I don't know fully myself, and it's also like I want to be an authentic leader, which therefore means I have to be vulnerable. Like I have to share with people. Like I'm not 100% all the time, and I'm struggling, and I'm trying to figure my way out of this, and also trying to fight for like normalization of neurodivergency and all kinds of stuff. So it's hard because I'm willing to be vulnerable, but it's also scary at times.
Yeah. And it's not a huge jump from one day to another. It's those little, steps in the direction that you want to go. I am not shooting on you in any way. You know, it's just a choice, like, and it's an exploration when you choose to share and when you choose not to share, and you get to evaluate the consequences, and then tomorrow you get to make a new choice. We are so out of duality. There's nothing that is right, wrong, black, white, good, bad, you know, it's just choices.
It's just
So
worth it because sometimes, like, I don't necessarily think that people run around thinking like, oh, autistic people are weird, or that's like laugh at the autistic person. But unfortunately, what has happened is it's not necessarily a person's fault. You're weird because you're autistic, but I've been treated for being weird for being autistic. So it's like really hard. Like I like a couple of days ago, someone just started laughing at me. And like, and I'm just standing there going, this is so rude. Like, and I'm just being different. Like, that's all it is. So it's trying to heal from stuff and also figure out who I really am.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
also,
that's definitely a reflection of them. And for us, it's so much about letting people go to play the
yeah.
leading role in their own lives, to be fully present with our own journey and our own choices. I'd love to connect with you after this and just continue the conversation. Would you be open to that?
Yeah, I would.
Love that. Thank you. Okay, good. Okay. So one of my core messages today, and there's so much more that I want to share, is that life truly was never about the perfection. It's about, I don't even know why we have a word that is perfect. Like, nothing is perfect. It doesn't exist. Have you thought about it? It's just the word that we use to describe that ideal, and we get to let those go, to be present in real life and enjoy the journey. So it's about our self-discovery and our growth. Let's move forward a little bit, because the way for us to connect and the way for us to truly meet and create those juicy collaborative spaces is about listening. This is the third choice that I'm bringing up right now, to choose unity. What comes up for you as good listening skills? What makes a good listener to you? I'd love to know.
Someone who doesn't interrupt you.
Oh, that's a good one. And why do we interrupt? Why do people interrupt? They're so into their own experience, maybe?
Because they're trying to decide how to respond whilst listening, so then therefore you're not fully listening.
Right.
And then they maybe get excited. Well, if someone who's ADHD, like, this happens all the time, they're scared of forgetting it. Because I'm more prone to forgetting things very quickly. I have to watch myself. Like, I think that's why a lot of ADHD people can interrupt people sometimes, because they're terrified of losing it.
Yes, that makes sense. Absolutely.
But
So
it's not good that, like, you have to pay
Mhm.
attention to people, and you're not fully listening if you start doing that. So
Yeah, and that's a balance. You know, that's we're all on the journey there of developing those listening skills, and also keeping check on ourselves in the process. But we can all definitely have different intentions with listening. We can listen to understand, and we can listen to respond. Anything else coming up for you guys? What makes a good listener?
Comfort with silence.
One more time.
Comfort with silence.
Please speak some more to that. I love that.
I guess just like yourself, a few minutes ago when you said you can talk about silence quite a lot. So when you're engaging with a group and you're asking them questions and you don't get a response, perhaps, or as much of a response as you'd like, I guess a good listener will just hold that silence and allow it to run without being uncomfortable about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we get so stuck sometimes in the outcome, what we want it to lead to, that we're not recognizing that it's actually a co-creation. And holding that space and holding that silence is giving time for people to self-reflect and figure themselves out. I love the image of music. Our conversations are like music, like the notes. And if you're into playing some instrument, you know that there are actually dots in the musical piece, and those dots represent pause. And if there was never a pause, that music would be dreadful. It wouldn't make any sense. So allowing that silence, allowing that space in between is part of creating that music together. I love sharing that image. I will share with you a couple of reflections on what it means to be a good listener, because that's what I promised to deliver. So let's just dig into that. Leadership is about meeting people where they are. It's about leading people the way they need to be led. That means that we get to use both our ears and find them where they are and create that safe space so that they are willing to share and show themselves, show their true color at the moment. It means listening deeply and actively. To listen is a choice. It's also a verb. It's something that we set out to do. It means that we keep those, we talked about opening the doors to ourselves with those curious eyes. It means bringing those eyes to that conversation, to that meeting. It means staying humble, recognizing that you don't have everything. I surely don't have everything figured out to open up to be complimented by this other person. When I went to meet all of you, a part of me was feeling a bit nervous. And what I love to do whenever I feel nervous about talking in front of other people is that I turn my focus towards care for them. Does that make sense? If you imagine that you're on a stage and you're so stuck in your performance, you're so stuck in what I call ego, like what would you want that to be like? That's really disconnecting from the people that is in front of you. And really, biologically, when we care for people, our brain starts to create serotonin, which really calms our nerves and enables us to connect. And when people feel in a conversation that we care for them, their brain creates serotonin, and it really helps them to wind down and not feel like they have to be defending themselves, for example. So there's definitely that place for caring in leadership in a way that's very, very biologically real. We get to set our intentions straight when we listen to people. And this is a big part of being a coaching leader, that we are not there to figure things out for other people. We are there to hold that space for them to self-reflect and figure themselves out, to offer space for them to find clarity. And clarity, my friends, leads to action. Clarity leads to action. So it's very, very powerful and a beautiful sense of leadership to not come with the solutions, but allow people to grow through that experience of figuring themselves out. I love that. I know that you don't need a master's degree in behavioral science to be that positive influence in other people's lives. And healing does begin when we are seen and heard. we all have the power to hold that space for another person. Oh my goodness, I just threw things in there. It's so easy for us to be distracted in today's world. We look at the time, we look at our phone, you know, hands in our lap, eye contact, and just make the choice to be present with this person that you have in front of you. And something that I've found very interesting as a behavioral scientist is how much we share with our bodies. And I know Terry can speak to this. He wrote a book about profiling for profit. Was that the title, Terry? Thank you. So there's so much that we give away just in the way that we carry ourselves and our body. We're just communicating on all levels. So some things to really, you know, we can make the choice to open up to another person. I can't really show you my knees right now, but if my knees are crossed, they can be crossed in a way so that I'm remaining open to the person that I'm meeting. Another thing is I encourage everyone to raise their hands, like bring your hands out in front of you. Thank you. And look at the back of your hand. When we show the back of our hand to an audience, to someone that we're talking to, we are communicating to them that we are tense and that we are closed. And now 1, 2, 3, flip it. And just picture that you're sitting comfortably with the palm of your hand open towards this other person. Look, it's so interesting if you keep the back of your hand and you look at it and just feel what's going on in your body, and then you flip it. When you open it up, and it actually relaxes your body. It relaxes your brain to see the palms open. So that's why really, like professional speakers, they will walk around and they'll show their open palms to make the audience know that that they're safe and that they can relax and open up to listen. So that's a really cool tip. Shayla, I'm so glad that you want to share something. I want to know what's on your mind.
Yeah, well, going to eye contact. I'm pretty sure I'm ADHD.
Beautiful.
So for me, looking straight into somebody's eyes is incredibly distracting. I can carry on the conversation much better if I'm not doing too much eye contact, and that confuses people. But
and it's on their side of the fence that they are confused. That's something that they get to figure out.
yeah,
And
at the
I
same
encourage
time, if I want to be communicating with them,
yeah.
I have to meet them where they are, not where I am. So it's always tricky.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
well,
I when you're neurodivergent, eye contact's not it's not the way neurotypicals do it. It's not something that we do that way. And it's interesting because I love even the fact that we're having these conversations that, you know, I bet you some people probably wouldn't even think about that. Like actually there's people that are trustworthy that can't make eye contact. It doesn't mean you can't trust them. And I have little tricks that I do, but I don't force myself to make eye contact either, because it's toxic doing behaviors. It's like that, like long term, which is why I'm kind of burnt out at the moment. But yeah, I try to look between people's eyes, but if you're too close to them, you can't get away with that.
Be comfortable and be you.
Yeah.
And I like to share that it is easy for us to place ourselves in containers. We put this sticker on our forehead and think that I am this way. And I'm saying that in respect. I think I understand where you're coming from. I want to share the openness that I do believe that we have everything inside of ourselves, and that we can explore sides of ourselves. That doesn't mean that that's where we usually stay or that's where we're comfortable. And I just encourage you to be you, and that's just a beautiful example of other people also meeting you where you are. It makes total sense to me. Thank you for bringing that up. Seth, how
Yeah,
are we doing
thanks,
on
Jenny.
time?
Sorry, something from unmute. Yeah, you could. We've got just under 30 minutes, so
Okay.
another 10 minutes. Yeah, comfortable. And then if you want to take some questions, and I only need a little under 5 minutes to wrap up, so it's cool.
Okay, good. Well, I do have some more slides.
Awesome.
Something that happens when we meet other people is that, I mean, we get so stuck in our own heads, and we see things the way that we see them, and we have our own cultural background, we have our own upbringing in a certain family, we have our traumas, and we really do have, you know, our own lenses and our own glasses on things. And there's just this conscious piece to take those off and keep our minds open to see things from another person's view. And I know some leaders do that so much that they lose themselves. And some leaders will benefit and will connect deeply with their teams from doing that more. So I'm just bringing that up there. A tip, a little technique for encouraging people to share, to show them that you're listening, is very, very simple. And I love doing this teaching my engineers. You can simply summarize what a person just said. That's a very simple way to show them that you were listening. And try that. Try that with at home or somewhere, and just pause and be silent. And you will see that other person, just by recognizing that you were listening and you were paying that attention to them, will be encouraged to keep sharing. And if a person is going all over the place, or if it's maybe one of those conversations that are more uncomfortable to have, and you see that it will really serve us to go in this direction, we're not going to go here or here or here, it really serves us to go this direction, you can summarize what they just said on that part of it, and they will keep talking in that direction. That's very powerful. We get to be grounded in our intention to understand, and even opening up for those moments for the other person to really pause, even when it's uncomfortable, to allow that to be. Anything coming up so far on listening? I'd love to hear if you have more to add to what makes a really, really good listener.
You'll actually know, like, I'm really listening to you when I'm sort of looking away. Generally, when I'm doing that, I'm actually really listening to you, for the fact that I'm paying less attention to your eyes and your face and things. So it's interesting, like, it's interesting, like, how for so long that we've sort of thought, like, right, everybody listens this one way, and actually it's so different for so many people.
Yeah, that's
to
introversion also. Introverted people and extroverted people will listen differently.
Yeah.
So I'm actually introverted.
Okay.
At my core, yeah. So, and sometimes I will let people know, just like you did now. Like, I'm looking into the wall right now because I'm really paying attention to what you're saying and what my inner reflection that's going on around that. And there's absolutely space for us to be who we are and also explore all sides of ourselves. I remember sitting at a meeting, actually my first job as a business developer, and I was so silent in that meeting. And one of the people that I was working with, she thought that I was not paying attention, that I was not being present. And she really said it out loud: anyone not willing to share next time doesn't have to join. So thankfully, I had leaders in my life who showed me other ways of doing things, and who grew that compassionate spirit towards myself, so that I did not have to retaliate towards her. I was able to recognize that that's where you are in your reflection, that's where you are on your journey, and I will continue my own. And growing that compassionate relationship to yourself really helps you open up to learn from the people who are different from you. I am massively grateful for the extroverted people in my life. I don't think I would be standing here had I not opened up to learn from them and the way that they were different and explore those parts of myself. So that's really, really cool. It really is a co-creation. It really is. Letting go of the outcome can be really, really scary. But it is something that we explore together when we meet. Yep. I wanted to share like the deeper teaching here is that when we show up vulnerably and as we are, we create a learning that is not just informing, but transforming. This is about connection. This is about connecting with the people around us. And connection is not just an exchange of information, it is an exchange of humanity. It is recognizing that we are on this path with everyone else, and our humanity is what unites us. And when we show up real, the creative processes that we are in just become so much deeper. And the innovation and the things that happen in the groups that I work with, it's just really, really cool to see what happens when they open up to be changed by the people around them, or transformed. Really, when we change, we can change back. That's really not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about transformation. I'm talking about that the butterfly cannot crawl into the puppet again. Like when you see something new, when you understand something new about yourself, you cannot unsee it. It's not like that portal behind you is closing, it disappears. That's really, really exciting to see in our teams, in the teams. Anything coming up there before I move on to share just a little bit about breath framework and the work that I do through NARA. That's all good. So as the Vice President of Breath Framework, sorry, for Europe operations, what I am about to share with you now is so aligned with my core values. My first core value is unity. That's why the first book is called Choosing Unity. We meet so many leaders who are stuck in just the task, like the list, the do, and who just lost the joy of their work, and who are beginning to get burned out and so stuck in other people's heads and what they're expecting of them. And it's so easy as a leader to just lose yourself. So what we get to do is support our executives through this healing process to reconnect with themselves, to know their core values, to know who they are at their core, to start living a life that flows from them, and to get back to the excitement of work and life again. So breath is an acronym where these letters stand for a life principle that I just want to share with you, and just keep your mind open and see what, what's the next step for you right now, what comes in for you. To heal and to grow as leaders, the first thing we get to do is begin where we are. This means calling things by their true name. It means being vulnerable and real. And it means sitting with our emotions. I know that one can be tough. The second thing that we do is that we support our clients to recognize where in their lives are they giving their power away. So I ask you now, where in your life are you currently giving your power away? Can it be in a close relationship like I did? I made those choices. I stayed and I gave my power away for many, many years. Does that make sense? Yeah. We give our power away to society, to norms, to situations in our workplace that we really dread, but we stay anyway. So where right now are you giving your power away, and what is the step for you to reclaim your power? We excavate core values, which means that we recognize what is the one thing that you could not live without. I love taking the clients through this process to recognize what is the one thing that they cannot live without, and how much of this do you have in your life right now. And often my clients recognize that their core values, they're just not living in alignment with them, and that's what is causing their stress and fatigue and their feeling of depression. Like, we're pulling people out of depression by helping them reconnect with themselves in this way. I love this so much. It's about allowing, that's growing your emotional awareness and allowing all of the things that are outside of your control, letting things go to create space for something new, for what truly serves you. It's sitting with your emotions and growing through your emotions. And it's healing and forgiving others and yourself, and getting to that place of peace and fulfillment in your life. And in my own coaching, I take people through those journeys of expansions that I myself got to make. Because when you look at that picture and that woman that I was just 5 years ago, I'm not that woman anymore, and I am, and I'm not. And it's been an amazing journey of expansion to reclaim my life and reclaim all parts of my life, and also expanding in business. So I get to coach clients who are struggling with codependence, and they're high sensitive, and they love what they do, and they care so much for the people around them. They're just not making their care complete by including themselves. So we definitely work on that piece. And Sath, I feel very complete right now, and I just want to thank everyone for staying with me, and wonder if there are any questions coming up from this conversation.
Like in the chat, but it's a nice small group, so happy for people to chip in and ask a few questions. We've got about 10 minutes. That's not bad. So yeah, no. I'm happy with that. Really. Great. So you're at the end of your slides now, are you?
I'm at the end, yes.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, you can maybe stop sharing and we'll just see everyone.
Yes,
absolutely. I was just
group.
thinking about a question for you, Jenny. What would be the best exercise to figure it out quick are your core values? What do you do if you forget about them?
A quick answer is that you can actually find lists online of core values, and there are like over 500. If I would do an exercise with you, I would ask you questions and I would pull them from my mind based on what you are sharing. But now that we're not having that kind of session, you can go to a list, and your soul works in onesies. So you ask yourself first, what's the one thing that you cannot live without? Just one. You can only pick one. If there's 100 things, 100 core values on the list, you can only pick one. And you choose that one. And then you ask yourself again, if I can only live in alignment with one more thing, you choose that, and then you have 5 core values. And you get to ask yourself, how much of these values do I have in my life right now? Not just how much am I getting from other people, it's like, how much am I giving this to myself? So my core values are unity, authenticity. I was not being authentic. I was super depressed. I was not being authentic at all, keeping those facades up. It's compassion. I was not being compassionate with myself, was being compassionate with everyone around me, right? It's respect and fairness. I was not being fair. I was not holding the people around me responsible for their part. I was bridging 200% of that relationship. And then you can ask, and you can use that as a compass for yourself when you are, like, this is the core of you. This is so, so important. When you stand in, you know, when you're in decision making, am I going to choose this job, and I'm going to enter this relationship? Am I going to move to this, whatever? Ask yourself, does this help me live in alignment with my core values? Make sense? And right there, like, things just clear up. When we have those conversations, things get crystal clear, and all of the things that were just waiting on you, that should I do this? I must do this. Like, no, this is your core. Live in alignment with who you are. It will set you free. I feel like I'm preaching. I'm not. Anyone else? Thank you for that.
So when you're doing these sorts of sessions, and obviously you talked a little bit Brené Brown's work, and as you rightly said, she's like, you know, the queen of vulnerability, and a couple of her books sitting there behind me. I mean, obviously it's a great subject, and I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to what you've covered, and it resonates with me, and for different reasons and different stages and aspects of my life, and the journey we all go on as humans, right? And as we take the time to introspect more and learn more about ourselves and understand where we are and things, we do reclaim and find our power. And I actually have a conference talk which talks to some of that. But you must sometimes go into sessions like this, so when you're coaching in a group and people really don't open up because they have that deep-rooted fear of, I guess, exposing themselves. I mean, how do you tackle that? Because a lot of people aren't comfortable, and I do genuinely feel that a lot of people will watch back your recording when we share it and will be interested in what you're covering, but perhaps didn't want to be here in person and contribute, or, you know, they weren't sure what you were going to deliver or how you might have wanted them to participate.
Yeah.
How have you experienced that? How do you handle that?
So when I teach a class, and we're in this, I've done these exercises also in a class, or in class. First of all, it's a relationship that you build. I would not go into this without having those people see me and meet me, and I'm, you know, for me to get to know them. And also I share a lot about psychology and personality, that we are different, and we are to respect that some people place their fence further out from their house, and they do not let people that close, and that makes total sense. You know, we get to respect that. And some people place their fence very, very close, and they allow people to come very close, and it's easy to walk that closely to someone else's house, if that's what we prefer. So that's actually the first thing that I do, is that I talk about those different personalities, and I use the one that is more, you know, confirmed from research and science, the 5-factor model, just to let people know that they're okay to have their experience. And I try to make sure to have some quality, like alone time, and I have pauses where people are able to come up to me, and we have, you know, those more personal sessions. And then I like to share those exercises in a way that you can make a choice, because that's when it's super scary, if we're not allowed to influence our situation and make that choice. I make those exercises in a way that you can choose to participate, you know, less and self-reflect more on your own, or share more. So just holding that space for people to happy where they are.
Fantastic. No, it makes a lot of sense. No, I was just curious to how you were tackling it. You've
Yeah.
clearly got a whole bunch of tools there that you're using to
And of course,
how
I'm
to build
sharing like,
trust.
yeah, and I'll share like misspellings, and I'll do things really weird, and I'll be really awkward on stage to help them relax.
Brilliant.
I love that part.
We've maybe got time for one more. If there's one more, then I'll wrap it up because we're coming up to time. But yeah, happy to take one
I
more.
have a question.
For sure.
When you're talking to a group of people, if they're not all from the same culture, where people set their boundaries can be very different depending on where they come from. How do you deal with that? Because that's pretty common in the industries I work in.
Yeah, I will address that very clearly, that we do set them differently. And like I shared here, like I'll share the scientific part of that, and how we are different in our personalities, and really step out of duality, step out of it. You know, it's not wrong or right to be a certain way. There are benefits with being very open-minded, and there are benefits with, you know, doing what works. There are benefits with being extroverted. There are benefits with being introverted. There are benefits with being, you know, more trying new things or running the same track every time. There are benefits with being flexible, and there are benefits with, you know, being very organized. So to help people see that it's all about stepping out of that duality, and just, you know, we get to learn from each other and respect one another where we are. Did I answer your question?
I think it's a good answer.
Is there more that you were hoping for?
Well, I'm thinking about things like some people, their personal space is like this close.
Yep.
And some people, their personal space is out there somewhere. And, you know, it's not just the thing of introvert and extrovert, it's just cultural differences that people will set things differently. And I don't know, I mean, it sounds like if you're trying to go through this kind of an exercise, it would be important for people to recognize those differences in each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when you're working with a multicultural team.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely not the first thing that you go to, and it's important to keep choice in there, like and because it's okay, like it's okay to want to do this exercise on your own, and I will make sure that you have all the instructions that you need to do that on your own, if that's what you choose. And then we will talk about the fact that tomorrow we can choose differently, and evaluate that and see the benefits of, you know, of doing things, trying a new way. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Oh, I enjoyed all of you so much. Thank you, Seth and Donald, for inviting me.
You're welcome. That was great. Fantastic. Yeah, I think we'll bring it there. No, it was great. Really good, Jenny. I think it was very deep, thought-provoking, and I think, you know, even the sort of silences, you could sense people were kind of in reflective mode, looking at, you know, what you had on the slides and how that was triggering for them. So yeah, it was. I knew it was going to be good, and I'm sure folk will read your book and your other books and follow your work. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. We're grateful for you joining us. Really enjoyed hosting you. Real privilege, and yeah, I'll definitely continue to follow your work. I think it's very relevant, very powerful, and very important in this very complex age we live in, with all that we're wrestling with. So yeah, thanks again for joining. And yeah, just if there's other stuff that you want to share with the community, you're welcome to share it with Donald and I. We're happy to circulate. You're also welcome to share things yourself within our LinkedIn group and our other channels which are open to share. So yeah, please share. I think there's a lot of good stuff here, and I think there's a lot of linkages, as I said at the start, with some of the other sessions we've had over the course of the year and some of the other sessions we've got coming up. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks again.
Beautiful. I
Great
love to
session.
connect on LinkedIn and Facebook, so
Yeah.
feel free to send an invite.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jenny. And thanks, folks, for taking the time. We appreciate you joining us. Appreciate your contributions. Appreciate your honesty. Thanks for participating. Great questions and making it a really, really memorable session. As usual, we'll get the recording out as quickly as we can. We usually get them out in 24 hours. Other people kind of want to catch them as well, so we'll get it out soon. And yeah, next month we've got Neil's joining us. Neil's who's got the most impressive surname that I don't know anybody who can say. But Neil's done a lot of great work in the complexity space. A really good guy. He's done a lot of really, really great work, and yeah, he's coming along to do a session on organising around complexity and systems and all that good stuff. He's well known in a lot of our communities. So yeah, I think he'll be another great speaker. And then in October, we've got a session around selfless leadership, which is something that's pretty close to my heart and links into some of my own work in the social leadership space. So yeah, a lot of good sessions coming up. A couple of other bits and pieces as well. As you've seen, there's a few other conferences and things coming up. I'm speaking at a few other ones this year, so you look out for things. It's still sort of conference season, so there's a bunch of really good stuff. And also, one of my other hats, I'm involved in the BCS, who the sort of industry body for tech, and I'm the sort of chair of the BCS group, Agile group. We're looking to do an event next month, and we'll have a bunch of lightning talks, but it'll be in person in London. So if you know anybody who's down in London who's got a really super talk, they'd like to deliver face-to-face to a fairly small, safe group, in person in London, you can reach out to me and make an introduction or something. I'd be happy to hear from anyone. But yeah, that'll be down in London in September. So just to call that out, if you know anybody who fits that criteria or think would like to do something like that, please connect them with me. Other than that, yeah, thanks again for joining. Another great session, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care of yourselves, and yeah, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you happen to be. And we'll see you again soon. Take care, folks. Stay safe. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks very much, folks.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye now.
Thanks, you.
Thank you.